How could I have known that moment would change my life completely? It was just an ordinary day until I walked into that room. When I noticed the door was slightly open, something inside me shifted within seconds. I could have turned back, ignored it, but I didn't. Because in that moment, when I realized what I was looking at, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. And yes, I was the one at fault here, because I was the one who started it, and the one who didn't stop it. George was at work. The house was quiet, but I heard faint noises coming from upstairs. Elliot was in his room. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just another moment of a young man lost in his own world. But maybe he'd like a coffee. A little conversation might be nice. I remember holding 2 mugs of coffee, thinking I'd bring him one. Just a simple gesture. Just to talk. Halfway up the stairs, I hesitated. The noise was clearer now, rhythmic, private, human. My heart began to race, not from fear, but from something unnamed. The door to his room was slightly ajar. I could have turned back. I should have, but I didn't. When I pushed it open just enough to see, the light from his laptop hit me like a slap. I froze. The realization came in fragments. Movement, sound, and then shame so sharp it stole my breath. Elliot spun around, his face flushed crimson. The screen went dark. The silence afterward was unbearable. I'm sorry, he stammered, looking anywhere but at me. My mouth opened, but words wouldn't form. I felt heat rise to my face, embarrassment tangling with something deeper, heavier. I should have knocked, I muttered finally, and stepped back into the hallway. My pulse was pounding in my ears. Downstairs, I pressed both hands against my face, whispering to myself, "What have you done, Darlene?" I wasn't angry at him. How could I be? But the image, the sudden collision of innocence and intimacy wouldn't leave my mind. When I heard footsteps on the stairs, I almost fled. Elliot appeared, eyes low, voice small. "I thought the door was closed," he said. "I should have knocked," I repeated. It was the only thing that sounded appropriate, though everything inside me felt anything but. We stood there, 2 people who'd shared a house for years, suddenly strangers inside it. The air between us felt charged, like static before a storm. I turned toward the kitchen, desperate for something ordinary to do. "I'll start dinner," I said, my voice trembling just slightly. That evening, silence filled every corner. We ate across from each other without speaking, forks against plates. Nothing else. Every sound felt amplified. And that's when I understood. Some silences don't fade. They settle. For a few days, the air in the house pretended to return to normal. I kept myself busy with small things, watering the plants, folding laundry, pretending the weight on my chest wasn't there. Elliot did the same, always polite, always distant. But whenever we crossed paths in the hallway or reached for the same plate at dinner, that moment replayed behind our eyes. The 4th afternoon, he came into the kitchen while I was wiping down the counter. He looked like he'd been pacing for hours. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded, though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear what would come next. He sat down, his voice low but steady. "I keep thinking about that day," he said. "Not just because it was awkward, but because it showed me how careless I can be. I made you uncomfortable. And I hate that." I stared at him for a moment. He was 23, but there was something almost childlike in the way he avoided my eyes, as if he was seeking forgiveness he wasn't sure he deserved. "Elliot," I said softly, "we both made mistakes. You don't owe me an apology for being human." He let out a shaky laugh, more out of nerves than amusement. "I guess we're even now," he said. "Even?" I repeated, unsure if I'd heard him right. He hesitated, his hand brushing his hair back. I mean, I've seen you that way too. Not like that day, just... He trailed off, the sentence collapsing under its own weight. The air froze. I should have stopped him. I should have changed the subject, made a joke, anything. But I didn't, because I wanted to understand what he meant, and that terrified me. What do you mean you've seen me that way? I asked quietly. He exhaled through his nose, eyes on the floor. Once, maybe twice. I don't even remember when it started, but it's been there. I just never said it. A slow ache spread through my chest. I didn't know whether it was fear, guilt, or something even more dangerous. I never wanted to make you uncomfortable, he said quickly. It's just, sometimes it feels like you see me differently too. That sentence landed like a spark in dry grass. My instinct was to deny it, to laugh, to end this conversation before it became something it shouldn't. But the truth was tangled inside me. Shame, curiosity, loneliness. They all lived there, quietly feeding off one another. I think, I said carefully, we're both walking through something we don't understand yet. He nodded slowly. Maybe, but pretending it isn't there doesn't make it go away. Silence again. But this time it wasn't heavy with embarrassment. It was heavy with recognition. That night, lying awake in bed, I stared at the ceiling and heard his words echo over and over. Pretending it isn't there doesn't make it go away. He was right. It didn't go away, it just changed shape. And by the next morning, I could already feel it pulling us toward something neither of us had planned, but both of us would have to face. Days went by quietly, but inside that quiet, something kept growing. Not passion, at least not the kind that burns, but awareness. Every gesture had meaning now. Every look carried history. When Elliot entered a room, I noticed the small pauses in my breath. When he spoke, I caught myself listening too closely. It wasn't desire that scared me most. It was understanding. One evening, he was sitting on the couch watching a movie. The light from the screen flickered over his face, young but tired, thoughtful. I sat across from him, pretending to scroll on my phone, pretending not to notice how the space between us seemed to hum. For a moment, I almost said something, anything, to break that stillness. But then he looked up, and our eyes met. "Darlene," he said quietly, "do you ever think we make things worse by not talking?" His words landed gently, but they hit deep. I set my phone aside. "Sometimes talking makes it worse too," I said. He nodded, smiling faintly. "I guess we're both afraid of the same thing." I looked at him for a long moment. He wasn't the same awkward boy who'd once lived under this roof. He was a man trying to find his place in a world that still treated him like a child, and I realized how dangerously easy it was to forget my own boundaries in that recognition. "I care about you," I said finally. "You know that, right?" He looked down. "I know, I just wish things were simpler." "They can be," I said, "if we let them." That night, after he went to his room, I stayed on the couch thinking about all the invisible lines people cross without meaning to. The ones between comfort and confusion, affection and attachment. Somewhere along the way, loneliness had blurred mine. The next morning, I wrote a note and left it on the kitchen counter. Gone to stay with my sister for a few days. Take care of the house. When I stepped outside, the morning air hit sharp and cold. My hands trembled slightly, but not from regret, more from the weight of doing what I should have done sooner. During those days away, I replayed everything in my mind. The shame, the silence, the subtle gravity between us. I realized how easily a moment of curiosity can slide into a lifetime of consequence if you don't stop it in time. When I returned home a week later, the first thing I saw was that note, creased, still sitting where I'd left it. Elliot had written a small line beneath it. "I understand." That was all. No anger, no pleading, just understanding. We never spoke of that day again, not directly. But something had changed for the better. We learned to fill the silence with conversation again. Laughter returned slowly, awkward at first, then real. Sometimes, when I think back to that afternoon at the half-open door, I still feel the echo of it. But it no longer burns. It warns. And that warning, quiet, constant, is what saved us both.